So I have finished my little rug, and if you caught my video adding multiple colors in a design, this is the rug I had started. And when I started it, I was thinking of doing a pillow. And a pillow I do one side woven, the other side just plain fabric. But when I got into it a little ways, I thought, well, why not a tote bag? It's made out of bulky yarn, it's nice and heavy, so it will be a good tote bag. Now, if I was doing a cell phone case or a purse or handbag, I would weave a long narrow strip, fold it in half, right sides out, and then do a decorative stitch along the outside edge. But of course, this one I had to do in 2 pieces. So when I looked at my yarns, I thought, oh yeah, I have plenty to do 2 pieces. So I started the second one, and I almost finished the second one. I got to down here where I had ½ an inch left and ran out of the brown yarn. Well, I had enough of everything but the brown. ½ an inch to go, how frustrating. So I ordered more yarn, and I thought I had ordered the same color and bulky, but when I started to weave with it, it was worsted weight. So I held 2 strands together, and that worked fine, but the texture is good, but the color is a little bit off. But this is going to be the bottom of the bag, and it's going to be the back, so I'm not going to worry about it. And I often make the front and back different patterns, and that's one reason is so you don't have to match the edges. But on this one I decided to do them both the same. So I'm ready now to finish them. I'm going to put them together with the right sides out. Now, instead of just stitching this together with a blanket stitch around 3 sides, because it is going to be used for heavier objects, I'm going to actually stitch the sides together with my sewing machine, and then I'm going to add a blanket stitch just as decoration. Now, the first thing you need to do is retie these knots at the corner. So I untie the knots and then retie all the strands together. So I'll have them tied all together on all 4 corners. So I'm going to go stitch my sides, or I'm going to retie my knots first, then I'm going to stitch my sides with the sewing machine, and then I'm going to get back with you for the finishing techniques. So now I have sewn up 3 sides of the bag, and because it was so heavy, I had to actually find an upholstery machine because my old machine doesn't sew heavy stuff. So I have sewn up 3 sides, have a nice bag, and I always envy people that have a whole project in mind and can finish it from beginning to end without changing anything. I can never do that. I always change things halfway through. I was thinking when I got it sewn together, wouldn't it be nice if I had a pocket in the middle? Well, too late, so we're going to have to think of something else. And now I'm ready to do decorative stitches, and I think the bottom actually looks good enough the way it is. I stitched it across there and the stitching doesn't show, so I'm just going to leave the bottom, and I'm going to do a blanket stitch on the sides. And I'm not going to go into details on how to do a blanket stitch. Instead, I'll post a couple links below the video. So check those out if you do not know how to do a blanket stitch. So a blanket stitch is essentially, this is going to be a quick summary. You come up in the middle, you knot your yarn, come up in the middle, so the knot doesn't show, and then you go through from back to front, and it's usually pretty easy going through the weaving because you can go right between the yarns. So you go through and you leave a little loop which you run the thread back through. And then you continue doing that all the way across, going through from front to back and going through that little loop. And it makes a decorative edge. And I was thinking after I sewed this, I thought, well, a blanket stitch would probably have been good enough to hold it in place. And I didn't need to really stitch it by machine. But now the stitching is going to be just decorative. So I'm going to go ahead and do that on 2 sides. And then I'll get back with you when I have that done. So I have finished adding the blanket stitch on the sides, and it's just purely decorative. and I see that the blanket stitch is actually pretty strong, so I didn't really need to sew that by the machine. So I have tassels on 4 corners, and there are other things you can do with the tassels. You can add fringe along the bottom. You can make bigger tassels and attach. And the top also has tassels. And the one thing you don't want to do is make them so short that they flip inside your bag. You might have to tack them down. I've tacked them down on a couple bags just at the side so they don't flip up. So now I'm ready for handles, and you can use different things for the handles. You can use webbing. You can buy webbing at fabric stores. You can do woven handles. You can do fabric handles. You can do leather handles. And you can often find handbags at thrift stores or yard sales that you can actually remove the handles and just use the handles. But I'm fortunate because I have a husband who's a leather worker. So I am off to have some handles made, and I'll get back with you when I have my bag finished. So I have finished my tote bag. I added leather handles and decorative buttons. Those are just decorative. And I did go ahead and tack the tassel down on the side so that won't be a bother. And it is the perfect size for a mini loom. The other thing I think I might do is add just a little piece of Velcro right here in the center to keep it closed when I lay it down. You can also do decorative fasteners, you can do braids, you can do a piece of leather, but all done. So happy weaving, and thank you for watching.